Hello, it is me, Intellect Man, and I want to talk about Digital Circus, Episode 6. People think it's getting better. I do not. I think that the show is progressively getting worse and worse. The first episodes had made a lot more sense. They focused a lot more on Pomni and what she was doing and how she can fit into the group. But at the same time, she was also learning more about the characters. She was pushing the characters into telling them stuff about themselves. I think that was kind of what was going on. We learned a lot about Ragatha, we learned a lot about Kinga, we learned a lot about even Gangle in the what's it called? The fast food restaurant episode. How it seems like she was like a manager and all that. And I think that all of that was really good. I think that Pomni was relatively, either we were just learning about these characters, just having a sneak peek, or Pomni was inciting these events in the first 4 episodes. And it changed, especially in the 6th one. The 5th one, I guess the 5th one, not so much. Actually, yeah, the 5th one as well. The 5th and the 6th one both had the problem where Pomni didn't do anything. She didn't cause any progression in the plot. She didn't force anyone to say anything. No one was trying to comfort her by telling him anything about themselves like Kinga did in the 2nd episode. Or 3rd episode, I mean. But, and we didn't learn anything about Pomni either. All that we're learning about in the 5th and 6th episode is about Jax. We're learning about Ragatha. We're learning about Gangle. We're learning about Zubul. And a bit of Kane, I guess. I don't know. But it's basically, there's a lot of things that we have to know about all these characters that aren't the main character. And it has a lot of problems when you make a story that had a main character and then make it not have a main character and instead it splits. The problem is that Pomni is not a well-developed character. She's just someone who dropped in, because the more you explain a main character, the harder it is to self-insert yourself as that character in this situation, which is very important as a main character in a show like that. But now that they've changed it, we're seeing Pomni from the perspective of other characters. And it's stupid, because when we see Pomni from the perspective of a different character, we realize how little Pomni does, like how little of a character she is. She's mostly just a vessel for the viewers. But when you're looking at Pomni from the perspective of someone else, she looks very bland, very, I don't know, just out of place. So that's why I think that's why I think there's a problem with the perspectives changing to different characters, which does happen a lot in episode 6 and a bit in episode 5. Because in let's go to episode 6 because it came out more recently. But the thing I noticed was they moved between pretty much every other character's perspectives and just developed a problem. Another problem I have with the newest episodes is how many problems they make. So Zubul, Zubul has a problem with joining in the group. And that doesn't get progressed on at all. Instead, they pretty much sideline her, actually. She's quite sidelined, but she's in the plot a lot. She doesn't do anything, but she's just standing there. Zubul is helping Gangle. She's angry at Jax. They do reveal that she was like a bartender and a tattoo artist in episode 5, which is a bit of backstory development, which is cool, but it doesn't go anywhere. And she doesn't change as a character at all. She's just in screen a lot, and she says a lot of stuff, but she doesn't say anything. She doesn't do anything that affects any other characters. She just gets angry at Jax, is a pillow to cry on for Gangle, and not to get me started on Gangle, but Zubul feels like a dead character. They had one thing at the start, and instead of building on that, and instead of giving them more base character work. They instead just shoved her into all these other mini stories and all these other like a random emotional roller coasters without actually giving her any sort of motivations or without really understanding her emotional state at all. Or just saying just anything about her, like even having her be friends with actually, yeah, that happens as well. She was developed as being friends with what's his name, Kane. She talked to Kane a lot, which I guess is interesting, but it gets so much screen time for having nothing to do with Pomni or anything like that. And the only time we see them together, Kane and Zubul, is them being angry at each other and yelling at each other. But what I'm trying to say is, Zubul has a lot of things happening, but she doesn't progress anything. She doesn't do anything herself. She doesn't develop or explain any of the actions that she does. She just goes along with it. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I mean. Actually, I do know. She just goes along with things without having anything to progress in her own, like, I don't know, her own character. Okay. Now next I want to talk about Gangle. Gangle is an odd character because in the first few episodes she's kind of bullied by Jax, and that's like the main point. But she doesn't hate Jax. You know, Jax hangs out with her. Gangle hangs out with Jax. Jax is like kind of abusive, but it feels almost like they could be friends. You know, like it feels like they aren't enemies because it doesn't feel like a character like Jax would be mean to Zubul or be mean to Gangle for no reason. It feels like they know each other and know each other's boundaries and just want to include each other. I could be wrong about that, but Gangle. Gangle's character is so messed up. She's sad all the time, but that isn't left like that. She gets better. She is now happy when she's with Zubul and shooting a Tommy gun. It's just that subplot in episode 6 was very, very bad. It didn't feel like something that works. There was no build-up. Right, Gangle started out as a sad character who was kind of like the butt of Jax's jokes. She was kind of the butt of everyone's jokes. And I don't think she hated it, you know? Like, it felt like Gangle was just a sad character. And people can be sad without needing to... I'm saying Gangle could have just stayed sad. Maybe given her a reason. Maybe she's sad because, I don't know, her friends disappeared, or she doesn't mind getting pushed around because at least she's involved. It doesn't make sense that she would stay in this situation if she hated it so much. And the moment she switches to being with Zubul, she feels happy, which doesn't make sense because she should have just done that before. Why was she with Jax in the first place? Hanging out with Jax and being on their team. In the 6th episode, he goes to Gangle to be on his team, which could be for negative reasons, but it feels like there's a level of trust and a level of reliability between those two. But that just gets thrown out the window because Gangle's like, oh yeah, I hate that guy. Oh yeah, I hate him like a lot. I hang out with him and I'm near him all the time, but yeah, I hate him. And honestly, it's just silly. And I think Gangle is like the least interesting character. I think that Gangle was alright in the fast food episode because it felt more, I don't know, real. It felt like this is like a manager at a fast food chain feeling sad about having closing shift all by herself. That makes sense, and I feel like Pomni was relatively involved in it, and I think that it was basically, I think that Gangle's character was in an alright place. She wasn't always sad. She was sad that whenever she couldn't draw and whenever she couldn't be herself, which was quite a bit of the time, but she didn't mind. But none of this even matters. I'm going to talk about one more character, and then I'm going to break it down. I'm going to finish up. Jax is a silly character. They give him so much things, so many problems, so many emotional breakdowns, when he doesn't actually have that much character, just like Zubul. It's very similar to Zubul, where he is just there, and he's like, it seems as though he's older than everyone else, like he's been there longer, but we don't know that. We don't know he's been there longer because they never explain it. They don't explain. No one tells Pomni that anything about Jax, because realistically, they would have been together for a long time. Because if Jax is the oldest, then literally they would have known him for as long as they've been in the digital circus. So they would know a lot about him, and that's why everything feeling so unstable, all the relationships like Jax and Ragatha and Jax and Gangle and Jax and Zubul, all of them hating each other and not liking each other and having problems, when they've known each other for so long and probably should have just sorted these problems out a long time ago. All these problems seem like very base level things, like base level problems. But instead they're just brought up like right when Pomni arrives. It's like everything that all these problems just start happening at the same time, and that's when Pomni joins. But not because Pomni joined, but just at the same time that Pomni joins, which is a problem because it feels like they were so unstable to start off with, which doesn't make sense because they've known each other a long time. But no, they're just unstable as friend group that doesn't really like each other, and nobody is friends with each other. No one knows anything about each other. And I think that's a problem. In the first episodes, people were explaining their characters, their like backstories and stuff to Pomni. It felt like Pomni was learning more stuff about everyone else, as she would because she just joined. So she's making friends and she's building friendships. I don't know. That's what she's doing. But now we're looking at other people's perspectives that should already know the other person's backstory, but they still don't like each other. No one likes each other, even though they should. They should at least have a mutual understanding of each other, but they don't. They don't understand each other, they don't like each other, they're not friends with each other, and they still hang out with each other. It's like they're forcing themselves to be abused, like forcing yourself in an abusive relationship. It doesn't make sense. And actually, yeah, that's where, and then the multi-layered problems with all of the, yeah, actually, that's what I'm getting at. Everyone has so many problems that all happen at the same time. Ragath is depressed. Jax has no friends. All his friends died. Gangle is depressed as well, without even like knowing why. And then she blames Jax, obviously, which doesn't really make sense, but and Zubul is like still cutting herself off. She's cut off because she doesn't want to join in the game because she doesn't have any friends. All these problems are all happening at the same time, and all these relationships are all happening at the same time. And none of these relationships work. Actually, there's no relationships. It's just a bunch of people not liking each other. And it just feels like there's a problem in how they developed it. It feels like they didn't They didn't study like what a friend group would look like if they've been together for like a year. This is how long they've been together. And all this stuff just makes everything really, really confusing. Because they make a problem, and then they make a problem, and then they make a problem, and it doesn't feel like any of this was built up to. It felt like it just happened. Oh yeah, Jax pushed Pomni away, and doesn't like Pomni, because, oh, she doesn't like, he doesn't like Pomni, and he pushes her away, but there's no because. You just have to imagine what the problem is. And there's no prior thoughts of why he would push her away. Like, he wants friends, doesn't he? I mean, he's already... you could say, oh, he's sad because his other friends died, and he doesn't want new friends because he has... what's it called? Yeah, he's afraid of opening up, and he doesn't want to make connections if they're just gonna disappear because all his other friends died. It's like, all this stuff was not explained slowly. It was just thrown at you, and you just have to kind of assume. You just have to assume that these things exist. There's so much assumptions that the writers want us to make in this newest episode about everyone. Like, why does Ragatha have all these problems? Why is she not just talking to her friends rather than Kinga? No, because she has no friends. Why does she have no friends? No reason. You just have to work it out. And I think it's silly. I think you can't... The problem with the show is they focus on these side characters, but they haven't explained the side characters enough. They just show the emotional down weight on them that is consistently on them all the time, but it doesn't say how they got to that point. How did they get to the point where Jax is pushing everyone away, and Zubul is depressed and just needed to be away from Jax to be happy? Why does Zubul not want to be in the group? Why is Ragatha also depressed and not happy with Jax? Why does Zubul hate Jax in the bar scene? Why are all these things happening when this is supposed to be a group? This is supposed to be a group that's been together for a long time, but it just hasn't. They just haven't connected at all. But yeah, I think that all of these problems started in episode 5 and 6. I think all this stuff, pretty much all the stuff I mentioned, is just with the relationships as well, and with the writing of the relationships, and how all these big depressing emotion stuff doesn't work if you don't build up their backstory or explain or build up to or do something for these characters. So yeah, and I haven't talked about the editing, man. I like the old editing better. There was less talking, there was more like exciting stuff, as well as knowing that in the first 4 episodes, first like 3 episodes actually, because the 4th one focuses on others quite a bit, but in the first 3 episodes the perspective is pretty much solely from Pomni, but then it's changed to be from just everybody, which would be fine if they had real characters, but no, they don't. No one else has real characters, or real motivations, or real reasons. It's just silly. It like pains me to think of when I was watching the episode, I was in consistent pain, because all I could think about, it was how all these emotions happened. Like, my brain was working overtime doing the show's job, which is explaining or understanding. And the moment I try to get a grip on something and try to understand something, the show just drops in my face. Oh no, that's not it. He also doesn't like this, and he also doesn't like this. And it was just sad. Couldn't work anything out. And that makes me feel bad, because I can't think of anything. I can't get connected to anything because I don't know why anything happened. That's why I think they should just go back to having it be a story about how Pomni fits in with this group. But no, now it's how do I make every single person in this group not super depressed and crazy? Which is way worse. Yeah, well, that's just my opinion. It's a bit of a longer talking video. I had a lot to think about in this Digital Circus one. Goodbye.